Hey ladies, it's so good to have you here. Let's get real for a second. In a world that's constantly telling women how to get a man, how to look, how to act, how to keep his attention, there's one truth that gets drowned out in all the noise. The most powerful way to attract and keep the right man is to be a woman he deeply respects. Respect is different from attraction. It's deeper. It lasts longer. It shapes how a man sees you when you're not in the room. It determines whether he sees you as someone to have fun with or someone to build a life with. And here's what most people won't tell you. Men don't deeply respect women who just say yes to everything, who try to be easygoing to avoid conflict, who bend over backwards hoping they'll be chosen. Men respect women who have a standard, a code, a core set of principles they live by, whether there's a man in their life or not. So in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 5 principles that the most respected women live by. These are the women who don't just attract love. They inspire better behavior in the people around them. They walk into a room and immediately change the energy, not because they demand it, but because their presence commands it. And the best part? These principles aren't about being cold or distant. They're not about playing games or acting mysterious. They're about alignment, power, self-respect. Because when a woman truly respects herself, she becomes the kind of woman who raises the standard of every man who comes near her. Let's dive in. There's a quiet strength in a woman who leads with standards. You feel it in the way she speaks, the way she moves, the way she makes decisions. She doesn't need to shout or prove anything because she already knows who she is. And when a man is around her, he feels that energy. It's not rigid or controlling. It's calm, clear, confident, and it commands respect. You see, there's a difference between giving someone an ultimatum and holding a standard. An ultimatum says, do this or else. It comes from frustration, from fear, from trying to force someone into changing their behavior. But a standard is about you. It's about the life you choose to live, the behavior you're willing to accept, and the level of love and connection you know you deserve. And that changes everything. When you lead with standards, you never have to beg a man to treat you right. You never have to threaten him with leaving in order to be heard, because your actions speak louder than your words ever could. If he's being disrespectful, if he's not showing up, if he's playing games, you don't punish him, you don't yell, you pull back, you remove your energy, you walk away, not in a dramatic flair, but with a quiet, graceful certainty that says, I don't operate at this level. I deserve more. That's powerful. And it's in that moment that a man feels the weight of your absence, not because you tried to teach him a lesson, but because you taught him through your silence what your presence was worth. Men respect women who know the difference between reacting and responding. Women who don't try to change a man's behavior through pressure or manipulation, but instead change their own environment by refusing to participate in dynamics that don't serve them. That doesn't make you cold. It doesn't make you difficult. It makes you self-aware. And that self-awareness makes you deeply attractive, not just physically, but emotionally. Now, some people might say, but what if he walks away when I stand my ground? And my answer is always the same. Then let him. Because a man who leaves because you have standards is a man who was never going to honor you in the first place. The right man won't run from your boundaries. He'll rise to meet them. Not because you forced him to, but because being with you makes him want to be better. That's the beauty of standards. They filter out the noise. They draw a line in the sand and make it very clear what you will and won't tolerate, not just in love, but in life. And don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean being inflexible. Standards don't mean you never compromise or grow with someone. What it means is that you don't compromise on core values, on respect, on effort, on consistency. You don't lower the bar just to keep someone interested. You raise it to keep yourself aligned with who you really are. Because here's the truth. The woman who leads with standards becomes unforgettable. Not because she's hard to get, but because she's hard to replace. She creates a space that challenges a man to bring his best self forward. And when he does, that connection becomes something real, something lasting, something both people are proud of. So if you want a man to respect you, if you want to be seen as the kind of woman who's more than just a moment in his life, lead with your standards. And don't ever be afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't match the love you're ready to give. That's not just attractive, that's powerful, that's rare. And that's exactly why the right man will work hard to be the one who earns your yes. There's something magnetic about a woman who owns her truth. She doesn't tiptoe around her feelings. She doesn't wait until it's safe to say what's on her mind. She doesn't smile through discomfort just to keep the peace. Instead, she speaks calmly, clearly, with conviction, not to argue, not to accuse, but to connect. To be honest, to let herself be seen. This kind of woman isn't afraid of what a man will think when she's vulnerable. She's not filtering every sentence to make sure she still seems cool or low management or easy to be with, because she knows something most people forget. Real intimacy only exists when both people feel safe enough to be honest. And if she's not being honest, what is she even building? Too many women are conditioned to apologize for having needs. They shrink themselves. They downplay their boundaries. They turn their real emotions into a joke or say it's fine when it absolutely isn't. Why? Because they're scared of coming across as too much, too sensitive, too needy, too emotional. But here's the truth. When you speak your truth, you don't push the right man away, you draw him in. A man may not always know how to handle full emotional honesty at first. He might even flinch when you reveal a part of yourself that's raw or unfiltered. But if he's a man worth your energy, he'll adjust, he'll lean in, because what you're really doing is giving him the chance to meet the real you. Not the version you think he wants, the version that's actually true. And the more you do that, the more he realizes he can trust you, not just with his time, but with his truth. Speaking your truth doesn't mean oversharing. It's not dumping your emotions on someone or constantly demanding attention. It means being willing to say the hard thing when it matters. It means saying, that didn't sit right with me, instead of bottling it up. It means saying, I want more from this, even if there's a chance he won't give it. It means saying, this is what I need, without following it with, sorry if that's too much. Because it's not too much. Your needs aren't a burden. Your voice isn't something to be silenced. Your boundaries aren't something to apologize for. They're the exact things that help a relationship grow. And a man who truly values you will want to know how to love you better, not just more. When a woman speaks her truth, she also gives permission for the man she's with to do the same. She makes it okay for him to be open. She invites emotional safety into the relationship. And that kind of space, that kind of trust, that's what makes a man feel like he's finally found someone who gets him, someone who sees past the surface and connects to the real him. But here's the key. You don't speak your truth to get a certain reaction. You speak your truth because you're honoring yourself. Because staying silent costs you more than being misunderstood. Because you refuse to abandon your needs just to keep someone else comfortable. You're not trying to win, you're trying to stay aligned. That's a different kind of power. This doesn't mean you'll never feel fear when opening up. Of course you will. You're human. You'll wonder if it's the right time, if you're being too intense, if he's ready to hear it. But the more you practice owning your truth without apologizing for it, the stronger you become. And the stronger your relationships become, because they're built on something real, not something rehearsed. There's a grace in being honest, and there's a freedom in not needing someone to agree with you in order to feel valid. When you stop needing to sugarcoat, when you stop managing everyone else's emotions, when you stop editing yourself, you become untouchable. Not in a way that walls you off, but in a way that makes you whole. You become a woman who's not afraid of losing the wrong person because you're too committed to not losing yourself. So speak up, say what's on your heart, ask the question, tell the truth, say the thing you've been afraid to say, not because you want to control the outcome, but because you want to live in a world where you're fully expressed, fully seen, and fully you. That's what the right man respects. That's what he falls in love with. And that's what creates a relationship that can stand the test of time. Because in a sea of people trying to be agreeable, a woman who dares to be authentic is unforgettable. One of the most powerful shifts a woman can make is realizing she has nothing to prove to anyone, nothing to compete for, nothing to win. She's not scanning the room to see who's prettier, sexier, or more desirable. She's not worried about being chosen because she knows she's rare. And when you know you're rare, you stop behaving like someone who's in a race. A woman who embodies this energy doesn't need to compete with other women for attention. She doesn't feel the need to insert herself or show off. She doesn't chase compliments or obsess over what someone else has that she doesn't. She's focused on one thing, living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling to her. And that kind of self-possession, that kind of quiet confidence, it's magnetic. The moment you step out of the competitive mindset is the moment you reclaim your power, because competing means you've already bought into the idea that you're not enough, that you need to outshine someone else to be seen, but you don't. You just need to be you fully, without shame or performance. And the right people, especially the right man, will feel that energy from miles away. Men don't respect a woman who's constantly proving her worth. They respect the woman who knows her worth without needing validation. They admire the woman who walks into a room and doesn't need to be the loudest or the most visible, because her presence already speaks for itself. She's not trying to be better than anyone. She's just trying to be better than who she was yesterday. And that internal focus makes her unstoppable. Here's the truth. The women who try to compete for a man's attention, who change themselves to be liked, who go out of their way to one-up the other girls, they might win short-term interest, but they rarely earn long-term respect, because deep down that behavior is rooted in insecurity, and men can sense that. So when you carry yourself like you're already enough because you are, you shift the entire dynamic. This isn't about arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than other women. Quite the opposite. A truly confident woman respects other women. She lifts them up. She's not threatened by their beauty, their success, or their shine, because she's too focused on shining in her own way. She knows that another woman's light doesn't dim hers. In fact, the more she celebrates others, the more radiant she becomes. And you know what happens when a man meets a woman like this? He pays attention. Not just because she's attractive, but because she's rare. Because she's not giving off pick me energy. She's not acting like she's in an audition. She's showing up like the woman she already is, and letting him decide whether he can match that. Think about how freeing this is. When you drop the competition, you also drop the anxiety. You stop comparing yourself to the woman he used to date. You stop checking who he follows on Instagram. You stop wondering if you're as good as someone else, because it no longer matters. You're not here to win, you're here to connect. And real connection doesn't require comparison, it requires authenticity. This is why the woman who knows she's rare creates a different kind of experience for a man. She's not reactive, she's not possessive, she's not waiting to be chosen, she's doing the choosing. She's not afraid of walking away if something doesn't align, because she knows that walking away doesn't mean she lost. It means she stayed true to herself. And men feel that. They may not always have the words for it, but they feel the energy. They respect it. Because being around a woman who knows her value makes them want to rise. It inspires a man to bring something more to the table, not because he's afraid of losing her, but because she makes him want to meet her at her level. You're not in competition, you're in alignment. And when you walk through life knowing that, the man who's meant for you won't just notice you, he'll respect you deeply. Not because you fought for his attention, but because your energy reminded him that you're the prize. There's something undeniably attractive, something deeply respect-worthy about a woman who genuinely enjoys her own company, a woman who doesn't fear being alone, who isn't constantly searching for someone to fill a void, because she's not walking around with an emotional hole in her life, hoping someone else will complete her. Instead, her life is already full of joy, full of purpose, full of people, passions, and plans that light her up from the inside out. This kind of woman is a rare breed, not because she's unavailable, but because she's not dependent. She doesn't need a relationship to validate her. She doesn't view her single status as a problem to fix. She's not anxiously swiping through apps hoping to feel chosen. She already chose herself, and that choice changes the energy she walks into every room with. When a woman's life is already full, she's selective, not desperate. She's not sitting around waiting for a man to text her back in order to feel good about herself. She's not spiraling if someone ghosts her, because her world doesn't revolve around whether or not someone chooses her. Her world is already spinning beautifully, with or without someone else in it. And that's exactly what makes a man respect her. You see, men can feel when a woman is whole versus when she's trying to be completed. There's a massive difference between a woman who wants a relationship and one who needs it to feel okay. The former is empowered, the latter is exhausting. Because needing someone to complete you puts incredible pressure on a relationship to be your everything. And no one wants to carry that weight. But the woman who's already living a life she loves, she invites a man in not to save her, but to share with her. She doesn't need him to give her a sense of identity. She already knows who she is. She has goals, she has community, she has fun. And because of that, she becomes the kind of woman who isn't just loved, she's respected deeply. And this isn't about being cold or hyper independent. It's not about saying, I don't need a man. It's about saying, my life is so full and rich already that I only make room for someone who genuinely adds to it. That's not being closed off, that's being intentional. That's knowing your time, your heart, and your energy are valuable and refusing to waste them on anything that doesn't enhance your peace. A woman like this walks away easily when something isn't working, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares enough about herself not to cling to what doesn't align. She doesn't get stuck on potential. She doesn't make excuses for inconsistency. She doesn't romanticize crumbs. Because she knows her life is good without chaos, and love should add to that, not subtract from it. Men respect a woman who isn't afraid of starting over, who doesn't lose herself in a relationship, who doesn't need constant reassurance to feel worthy. Because that woman becomes a mirror, she reflects back the kind of self-respect that challenges a man to level up. She makes him want to show up more consistently, more thoughtfully, more intentionally, because he knows she doesn't need him. She chooses him. And being chosen by someone who doesn't need you, that's rare. That's powerful. That's what creates lasting attraction and deep, enduring respect. So if you're single right now, don't spend your time waiting. Don't press pause on your joy. Don't withhold your own happiness until someone enters the picture. Build your life. Love your life. Fill your days with meaning and momentum, because the more fulfilled you become, the less likely you are to settle, and the more magnetic you become to someone who sees your fullness as a gift, not a threat. And if you're already in a relationship, this still matters, because even in love, you must remain your own source of happiness, your own source of meaning, your own source of confidence. That's what makes you not just a partner, but a force. A woman whose life is already full doesn't just get love, she gets the right kind of love, because she's not afraid of walking away when it isn't that, and she's fully ready to receive it when it is. One of the most powerful things a woman can do in a relationship is to hold space for a man to grow without trying to control the pace or direction of that growth. It's a subtle yet powerful difference. Control says, do it my way or I'll withhold love. But inspiration says, I believe in who you are becoming and I'll be here if you're ready to rise. That kind of energy is unforgettable and it's deeply respected. There's this idea some people carry that a woman has to fix, manage, or mold a man into his potential. That if she can just say the right thing, apply enough pressure, remind him often enough of what he should be doing, he'll finally get it together. But here's the hard truth. Control may produce short-term compliance, but it never produces long-term growth or genuine respect. Men don't respond to pressure the way you think they will. They may nod, they may say you're right. But if their growth is driven by guilt, fear, or performance, it rarely lasts. Real, lasting change comes when a man decides to evolve. And often, what prompts that decision isn't a lecture or an ultimatum. It's being around someone who embodies high standards without apology. A woman who lives by the values she believes in and who doesn't shrink her standards just to keep someone close. That's why a woman who calls a man to be his best without controlling him is such a rare and powerful presence. She's not in the relationship to parent him, to micromanage him, or to rescue him from his own life. She's there to partner with him, to support him, yes, but not to drag him toward his potential. She believes in his greatness, but she's not obsessed with unlocking it. She'll encourage him, challenge him, and reflect his strengths back to him, but she's also willing to walk away if he refuses to grow. Because love should lift you, not limit you. And if being with him means constantly pulling dead weight, she knows that's not love, that's labor. And here's the beautiful paradox. When a man feels that a woman sees his potential, but doesn't need him to become that version just to keep her love, something profound happens. He starts to want to grow, not to keep her, but to be worthy of her. Not out of fear, but out of inspiration, because her belief in him, combined with her independence, becomes a mirror for what he could be. Not for her sake, but for his. This kind of woman doesn't yell at a man to do better. She inspires him to want better. She challenges him with her presence, not with her pressure. She doesn't issue ultimatums. She simply walks in her standards and lets her consistency speak for itself. She might say, I want a man who communicates when something's wrong, and if he refuses to do that, she won't chase him. She'll move on, not in anger, but in alignment, because she's not here to fight with someone into becoming her ideal partner. She's here to meet someone who's ready to become that man. There's an elegance to this way of loving. A woman like this doesn't manipulate guilt or complain her way through a relationship. She knows none of that works in the long run. Instead, she models what high standards look like. She leads with clarity, kindness, and truth. And she lets the man decide if he's ready to rise into that energy or not. That's why men don't just love women like this, they respect them. Because that respect is rooted in freedom, in autonomy, in the unspoken truth that real love doesn't control, it elevates. So if you want to be that woman, don't try to mold anyone. Be the standard, be the example. And if he's the right man, he'll rise. Not because you asked him to, but because he wants to. Ladies, here's what I want you to remember. Men don't just fall in love with a beautiful face or even great chemistry. They respect a woman who carries herself with conviction, with strength, with a quiet kind of power that says, I know who I am. I know what I bring. And I refuse to settle for anything less than what truly aligns with me. When you embody these 5 principles, when you show up as the woman who values emotional honesty, who never competes because she knows she's rare, who lives a full and vibrant life without fearing solitude, who knows how to hold space for a man's greatness without trying to control him, you stop attracting situations that drain you, and you start drawing in the kind of love that matches you. Because here's the truth, the relationship you want isn't something you chase, it's something you align with. And alignment comes when your energy, your standards, and your self-respect are no longer negotiable. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. But if you live by these principles, you'll walk through life as the kind of woman men don't just desire, but admire. You become unforgettable, not because you're playing a game or reading from a rule book, but because you're real. You're grounded. You're powerful in your softness, clear in your boundaries, and open to love, but never desperate for it. So don't wait to be chosen. Don't dim yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. Step into your full expression. Be the woman who leads with her values and trusts that the right man will not only see it, he'll rise to meet it. Because at the end of the day, deeply respected women don't play small. They don't chase, they don't beg, they invite, and then they watch who shows up. And trust me, when you live like that, the men who are meant for you, they won't just come close, they'll stay and they'll honor you every step of the way.